Hello, Franz here, Clay Manufacturing. This is the Wasabi. It is CAM Op 1 Part 2. So my other video was CAM Op 1 Part 1. It went to 30 minutes, so I had to end it. This one, we're picking up working on the top side of our Wasabi Speed Wrench. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go to my CAM Op 1 Part 1 and then pick up there. Now, let's look at where we left off. We left off here on my last video on Part 1 where we cleaned up the inside of this hex. Now, the next move I'm going to do is we're going to clean up the outside of this part. And this is where we left off. And we're going to go 3D and we're going to do contour. And for tools, we're going to do a 3/8 flat end mill, and that is my tool 2. So a 3/8 flat end mill, select. And then spindle speed, 6,000. I'm using my defaults, 30 inches, and you can look at them and double check for yourself. And then, so for geometry, this is where it's a little bit tricky. For additional offset, well, I'm going to try not to do additional offset and see what happens, because I have my notes I'm looking at, so I know what should work. All right, so you want to do avoid touch surfaces. And we want to tell it what surfaces we want to touch. I'm going to go, so for the mode, I'm going to go touch. And I'm going to come over here and select all these faces that I want my contour to touch. So that's good. It says I have 5 faces. My instructions say 7, so probably these 2 guys. And I'm just waiting till it kind of turns that weird white. And if you select the wrong surface, I believe you can click on it again. Oh no, you can't. You might have to clear it all out. I lied. So don't screw up. Okay. 7 surfaces looks killer. In my notes, I have an offset of 0.5 here. I'm going to leave it off there, and if I have issues, that will be my issue. Then let's go to heights. For model bottom, we're going to shoot past. I'm going to leave all these, and we're going to go negative 10,000, negative 0.01. And then for the passes tab, this is where you're going to get some Fusion annoyances. Maximum step down is 0.4. I want it to go all the way down. And then it says cusp height. Cusp heights are typically when you use a ball end mill. I'm using a flat end mill, so this irritates me deeply. But I'm not gonna, it's just gonna have orange. As long as your toolpath is produced, it will work fine. But in the meantime, it's gonna have these stupid little orange warning signs saying it doesn't like what you're doing, but it will work. So for flat area detection, I'm going to deselect that. I'll leave this, I'll select smoothing, and I think we're good there. We're just going to have this glaring at us for the rest of this project. Fun. No multi-access. Linking. Ooh, I have this all squeezed up real tight. Safe distance, 2 inches. I'm going through here, just making sure. I think this is all the same. Oh no. I want to, for the horizontal lead-in radius, let's make that big, because this is it's going to roll on the part, and we want a nice sweeping lead-in so it's hard to see witness mark. So we'll go 0.2, so that's pretty big. Go 90. Vertical lead-in radius, nope, don't want that. We'll say 0.0. So all I changed was horizontal lead-in radius and vertical lead-in radius. And now let's say OK. And this is talking about that warning from the passes tab. We're going to say yes. And so it didn't generate. And it didn't generate, and I guarantee you it is because of what I said in the beginning. So let's right click on here. Let's say edit. And I'm going to go to my geometry tab. And I'm going to give it that offset that I had in my note. So it didn't know what to cut, so we need to get it. I'm assuming the way this is working is I need to give it offset, so it's because it's tool center on there, and so it's going to cut the geometry. And this is a 3D toolpath, so 3D toolpaths recognize 3D geometry, and it's like, okay, I'm going to cut this thing, so it's not going to work. So let's say 0.5 to get an offset to kick off of there. That's what I'm assuming. Don't take that to the grave in case I'm wrong. Okay. And this is just a warning from my cusp warning. There we go. So it does this kind of kooky lead in, lead out. That's okay. It's going to work. That's how I've been doing it in the past, and it works fine. So the whole reason it's kind of weird to set up is because we have these different depths right here. It's not just like one solid part. So the bottom of the part, it's got these stands, and then it's got these that are at a different level, so it gets confused. There's another way you could do it where you could actually project a sketch to the bottom and then just select that sketch, and then you could do a 2D contour, which is probably easier, but it's a little more complicated trying to create instructions around it, so that's why I'm doing it this way. And this orange warning is because of the cusp height. We're not using a ball end mill, so just ignore the warning. And I'm going to say save. The next one I'm going to attempt is the 2D contour. We're going to do a 2D contour. Let's look at it. Let's look at my cheater one. So these are what I'm going to do next. I played with a lot of adaptive strategies. I didn't like the surface finish they gave me. So on here, I did a 2D contour and did 2 passes to clean up these flat webs. So let's do that. Let's go 2D, and we're going to go contour. And we have our 3/8 flat end mill, 6,000 RPM, 30 inches a minute. Good. So for our contour selection, we're going to do one side at a time. So I have it set up. We're going to go select and select. I think that's all for this one. We're going to go to my heights tab, and I'm not going to change anything. We're going to go to my passes tab. This is where we might have to do some stuff. So we want to do multiple finishing passes, so we're going to check the box, and we want 2 finishing passes, and for the step over, let's say 0.2. Since it's only removing like 5 or 10 thou off the bottom and sides, I think it's 5 thou, we can do a large step over and it's not going to break our tool or give us chatter. It shouldn't. So we'll go 0.2. Finish feed rate, we'll leave that at 30. We'll turn on smoothing. And hopefully I didn't miss any notes. Let's go to my linking tab. And let's go 375, 90. Let's get rid of my linear lead-in distance. We'll zero that out. Vertical lead-in, we'll zero it out because it starts off the part if we did it right. Why do I have something clicked? Perpendicular, no, yep. All right, looking good. I'm going to leave these and I'm going to say okay. Oh yeah, that's looking good. So you see it starts off the part, it does this little lead-in radius and then cuts and walks in, it looks like. Now that's good. Why did I break it up? I don't know right now. So I'm going to, I don't know why I didn't select these ones on there too. I'm going to we'll show you how to duplicate a toolpath and not to confuse us more like I've been doing. So I'm going to right click on here because I want to repeat this on this web. And I'm just going to say duplicate, but I got to select different geometry. So I can click on here and I'm going to right click and say edit. And for geometry, instead of those chains, I need to select these ones. And you notice, I wish I should go back in time and fix it, but I selected this bottom part and not the top part of that radius. Let's clear these out, and now I'm going to select over here. So I selected the bottom right there. It's kind of the transition where it blends into that bottom face, and then right here. And everything else should be the same. I'm going to just say okay. Ooh, it's not. So you see how I have these little chunks right here? This is why I did it, and I didn't have it in my notes. So I probably changed my step over. There's a little triangle that I didn't clean up there. So let's look what I did on my other one. So on this one, I might have changed my step over. Let's go edit. Yes, I did. I increased that step over. So I didn't put that in my notes. Shame on me. So you see what I did there. In the beginning, I just selected here, and then I was like, hey, guy, why didn't I just select this geometry while I was at it? Well, it's shaped differently, and when I use these same parameters, it didn't clean up over here. And maybe I could have tried to do a 0.25 step over here, but then these would have overlapped more. So that's, I did it different. You know, you can do it a little bit different if you want to. This isn't a big deal. It's just how the surface looks. And then this one, so I copied everything besides the geometry selection, but it left me these little steps right here, which aren't going to look too cool to my customer, which is me or you. And so I'm going to right click and I'll say edit. We'll go to passes tab and the step over, let's increase that to 0.25. So all I did was a right click on the contour, edit, then I clicked on passes, 0.25, and I'm not changing anything else. We're going to say OK. And voila, I have that weird little nub. It has been removed, taken care of. Cool. And I'm going to say save. Now the next one is we're going to introduce our 1/8 inch ball end mill, and we're going to try to kind of gently cut these weird steps out and then put our nice finish on there. Because that horizontal, it gave us a surface finish here. So let's attempt this one. This one's going to be tricky. These are a little bit tricky. We're going to do a 2D contour. We're going to use an 1/8 inch ball end mill, so I'm going to go get my tool. Let's go to Clay Mini Mill. My 1/8 inch ball is my T7. Say select. 6,000 RPM, have that baby maxed. Cutting feed rate, we're going to increase this to 20 inches a minute. 20. And then these ones update, that's good. Leave these bottom ones. Now for the contour selection, this is what I pulled my hair out with last time. Is I need to select this guy right here. And I need to select this guy right here. Now I may come back, I don't remember if I did all these. Let's just try it for kicks. So we're going to select there. And then, yeah, I think I did all of them. I did 4. So here. So I'm selecting the top where the radius meets the vertical wall. That's what I'm selecting. And now for my tangential extension, I want it to come off. That's where it's going to come off the part. We're going to say 40 thou. 0.04. And I also did a separate tangential extensions. I clicked here and 40 thou. And I believe that's all I did here. Now my heights tab. For my bottom reference, I want to do a selection. So I came down here, I'm going to go selection, and I want to tell it that this is the bottom. I want that to be the bottom. And then for the top height, I left that as a default. And then we're going to go over here to our passes tab. And we are going to increase it. We're going to do 2 passes. I want to kind of gently walk in, and I'm going to leave the tool from coming in contact with the floor right now, because I don't want to have 2 step over marks. I want to get it really roughed in close and then come with a final 1 single pass cleanup. This is a pretty common tool pass. A lot of stuff going on here, but you can learn a lot. So we're going to go multiple finishing passes, and this is 2, and my step over I left at 12.5 thou, 20 inches a minute, and then stock to leave. So let's skip down here to stock to leave. Let's drag you up a little bit. Now on the radial on the side of the tool, I did 2 thou, so 0.002. And axial under the tool, I did 1.5 thou. Yeah, so 0.0015. So a little less. And you can play with those numbers if you don't like what you see at the end, but it came out pretty nice. So stock to leave, I left a smidgen more on the radial and a smidgen less on the axial. And a smidgen apparently is 0.5 thou in this example. And then let's do smoothing. So I'm going to select a smoothing box. And that's looking pretty good. Let's go to my linking tab and see if I need to change anything on here. Lead in, entry, horizontal lead in. I did a 50 thou here, 0.05. So horizontal lead in, I changed to a 50. Lead in sweep angle 90. I got rid of this lead in distance, so 0.0. Vertical lead in radius, let's get rid of you. You're annoying me, 0.0. And I think that's good. We'll say okay. And that's looking what I want. The reason I did 2 is because you see we have this weird step. So I kind of did one first that's going to probably be a little more chattery. And it's going to take off like the initial amount. And then I come in another 12 thou. And it does another kind of roughing. And it still leaves, I leave a little radial and axial. So there's still a little bit of material. And I didn't want 2 marks on this surface. I want to come in and leave 1 mark because I'm being ultra picky on my surface finish. So I'm going to say save so I don't lose any of my work. And we're going to do that little duplicate because I already have this all dialed in, and I'm just going to duplicate this bad boy. I'm going to go right click and I'm going to say duplicate. And now I'm going to go on that one that I just duplicated. I'm going to right click and I'm going to say edit. And the thing I'm going to change is I'm going to go to passes and I'm going to say no, I'm just going to deselect this. So multiple finish passes, no, deselect. And then stock to leave, get rid of you. And I want to do my feed optimization. I will leave the defaults. So let's go over this. I duplicated my prior toolpath. I did a right click, edit. I removed the multiple finishing passes. I removed the stock to leave because I want to go down to my nominal size now. And I don't believe I touched anything else. And we'll say okay. So now that comes straight. The center of the tool is supposed to be on this line. And then I modeled this at 0.0625 so it'll clean it up and then straighten up according to my tool geometry. And we're going to say save. So that's looking good. And you can go through here too. We'll go like this. I'm clicking on that one. I'm going to hold down shift and click on there just to select these end toolpaths. And I could go actions, simulate. And I'm just going to drag the bar down here and kind of go real fast. And you could go through and simulate it. And this is what I was wanting to show was this guy. Get off of here window. I'm going to say play. So that comes in there and you see it's going to knock off. It kind of blends into that wall and it knocks that bottom step down and it goes around there. So it's still leaving material here, material there, and it's going to come back. Well, it's going to do the first pass, I guess, to the second pass there. Now it's going to come back and do that second pass. So now it has it where there's no step in there. So I'm basically roughing it in to the shape I want, and then I'll come back with one finished pass because I left material on the bottom of the tool and the side of the tool. And so when I come in with just one pass, I won't have 2 tool marks walking around there. Like, so it will look fun. I did that in the beginning. It looked funny. That's why I know from my mistakes. All right, so I exit out of simulation. Let's see what we did next. I'm going to say, I already saved it. So we're going to, let's see. Oh yeah, so we're just going to rough out these 2 pockets. So those pockets on the web. We're going to go 2D pocket. And I'm going to do my 1/4 inch end mill. So select 1/4 inch flat end mill, select 6,000 RPM. We're going to leave our 25 inches a minute feed rate. We are going to come in here for geometry and I want to select this bottom ring right here. Same with this one. I'm going to go right here. So it's where the floor meets this radii. Cool. That's what I want. I'm not going to do anything else. Heights. I don't think I did anything here. I did. So for top height, I'm going to change this to a model top. And I think that if you don't do that, it'll try to cut on the top of the part, and you need to change it to model top so it stays inside that pocket, I believe. Let's say model top. I could be wrong. Hope I'm not. All right, passes tab. Let's see what I did here. So max step over, I did 10% of the tool. Oh no, more, because this is a 1/4 inch, so I did bigger. I did 0.0375 because it's going down, like it's a really shallow depth of cut. It's not a big deal. So my step over is 0.0375. Stock to leave, I did 5 thou radial and axial. So 0.005, because I'm leaving material, because later we're going to come back and do this cool little detail with my ball end mill to make it look cool. So I'm leaving some material for that ball end mill to cut. And then let's do smoothing. And we're going to do feed optimization. And I'm going to change the feed radius instead of 12 thou to 125 thou. So I'm just removing that 0. It's 0.125. So I updated right here 0.125 for the feed optimization. And my note page is too squishy. Let's go to my linking tab. Just kind of going through, verifying my numbers, 90, linear lead in, I left that. Since this is going vertically down, I left the vertical, so it's a, because if you plunge straight, it's a lot more aggressive on the machine and tool versus kind of a ramp or a radius ramp in. It looks like all this, ooh, ramp clearance height. So I reduced this, maybe so I didn't helix in the air so long. So I went to 0.05. This is not crucial. Ramp clearance height, I reduced it from 0.1 to 0.05. And I think I left everything else. Let's see how this sucker goes. I'll say okay. Cool. So this is kind of an annoying helix down. Top height. Let me see something. I'm going to see if I edited that out of this one. No, I didn't. Okay. You can play with your heights to remove that. It's just annoying because it's such a slow feed, so it's going to sit there and helix and cut air for a while. But if you're new to this, that's not a problem to cut air. But if you're trying to make money, you need to reduce that air cutting time because you ain't making money cutting nothing. So that's looking good. I'm going to save. And so the purpose of that tool path, because I'm going to stick my 1/8 inch ball end mill in there, but I couldn't just do it initially because that's a lot of material for it to remove. So my 1/4 inch end mill is a lot stronger. So I come in, I rough it out, I leave a little material on the bottom of it, and then also you see there's a lot of material here on the sidewalls where my tool couldn't go, based on my settings. And really that's okay for what we're doing. So my next one is going to be a horizontal, I believe. So we're going to do a ball finish horizontal. We'll go, no, it's not a 2D, it's a 3D. We're going to go 3D horizontal. And I'm going to leave this thing at 6,000 RPM. We're going to reduce the feed rate to 20 inches a minute. I'm going to start speeding up a little bit because, man, so time consuming. That's looking good. We're going to geometry tab, and then I want to do a selected, or so I'll go selection, and then tool outside boundary. We'll change additional offset to 0.125, and that's good for here. Oh, I gotta select geometry, stupid. So for the machining boundary with this highlighted, I need to come down here. I'm going to select this guy, and then I'm going to come and select that guy right there. So now I have these two chains selected. Now let's go to heights tab, and for the top height, so I don't machine anywhere else besides inside of here, I'm going to go top height, I'm going to go selection, and I'm just going to select this top face. And so these are on the same plane, so it'll be the same for both. Bottom height, I'm going to go selection, and it's freaking out. Don't worry, I'm going to select that guy. And then I forgot to do something. So for my top height, I've got to cheat this thing. If you leave it at 0, it still tries to cut on the top. So since it's a 3D toolpath, it recognizes 3D geometry and won't cut it. So I'm going to say my top height is minus 0.001 below that surface I selected. So I'm just saying it's a little bit lower at 1 thou. That's nothing. We'll leave that. Bottom height. Yep. Passes tab. Now, this is where we need to do a manual step over. So I'm going to click right here. And I want to do 15 thou. So that's the step over. So it's going to, each pass will be 15 thou over from the previous path. And that's not that much. Your human hair is about 4 thou in width, thickness, but it'll go faster than you think, machine time wise. We're going to do our smoothing, feed optimization. I left, huh. My feed optimization had smaller numbers here, but we're going to leave these defaults. Mine was half of this number. Oh, did I select the wrong tool? Nope. Yes, I did. So I'm not going to go back and fix this. The reason those were different was because I'm stupid and I didn't select my 1/8 inch ball end mill. I just selected the toolpath, verified the feeds and speeds without checking the tool. So I'm going to come here and go select. And it happens. This happens all the time, so I'm not going to edit it out. It's real. That's my T7, and that's my 1/8 inch ball end mill. So now I got my right tool. And let's adjust the feeds again. So this, I had 20 inches a minute, not 15. So all I did, let's go 20. I did a right click, select, change the 1/8 inch ball. Now I got to change the speed again. All my other stuff shouldn't matter. But now let's look at this. This is all good. And now that number matches my notes. Awesome. Looking good. Now let's go to my linking tab. I'm just kind of verifying. I'm slowly going down. I think I can leave all these. And I'm going to say okay. There we go. It's cleaned up. It didn't cut on the top. Now, if it's cutting on the top here, it's probably has to do with your heights tab, what you selected, and if you cheated with my minus thou or not. So make sure that's correct. And I'm going to look at my other one just to make sure everything is matching. And I'm just kind of looking to, it looks good. So this one just goes like boom. And this one just starts from the center and goes that way. Weird, but okay. Same. Awesome. So those all match. And I'm just, because if those didn't match, it means I probably did a parameter different, but it matches, so I like it. Okay, we're going to get through this, guys. Let's save our work. 27 minutes. Ooh. Now we're going to do a chamfer. This should be pretty easy. We're going to chamfer all the surfaces, all the edges except this one. I'm going to do a 2D chamfer. I got to select my tool first. I'm going to go to my clay mini mill. Aluminum. This is my T5, my 1/4 inch 45. We'll say select. And I'm going to leave this baby maxed out at 6,000 RPM. And I want to leave at 20 inches a minute. Geometry. I'm going to come here and just get all these top surfaces. Not this one, because it will bury the tip in that edge. Oopsies. So I'm going to get this guy, that one, that one, that one, this one, and I think that is it. So I have 8 on here, and on my, oh, and I forgot him, 9. Thank goodness for notes. If I didn't have my notes, I'd be really messing you guys up. So I have all these top edges. I just want to break them. But I believe I leave everything the same here. I go to my passes, and for my chamfer width, I do a 1/10 thou. I'm not going to get into the detail, but if you have chip chamfers and you don't know how to use your height offset on the control for wear, I would reduce your chamfer number because it's going to bury that chamfer deeper in your part. So I have a nice pointy tip, so I'm going to leave my 1/10 thou. I'm going to leave 40 thou for my tip offset, and that's just how far the tip is offset away. Read the boxes. We'll leave that. We're going to do smoothing. We're going to do feed optimization. Leave the defaults. And let's go to my linking tab. For horizontal lead and radius, I'm going to say 50 thou 0.05. 90, we'll get rid of linear lead and distance. We'll go 0.0. I don't need it. I don't need this because we're starting out in air, not cutting vertically down. 0.0 for the vertical lead and radius. And then I did do an entry position on mine. So I probably did them in here so it didn't enter into those flats. So I'll select those points. I don't remember which ones I did. I'll say okay. And yeah, so that way when it's kind of leading in and leading out, it's doing it here versus right in the center where you might see a witness mark. It's not a big deal, but it's just to kind of hide your tool marks. So I broke the edge. I'm going to say save. Now the last thing I really have to do is drill, chamfer, and tap that bad boy. So we are going to drill first. I'm going to go drilling, and let's see. I'm going to go select my mini mill library. And mine, it's a 201. I'm using a cut tap. If you're using a roll tap, your drill diameter will be different. So I'm using a 201 drill. Say select, and it's my T9. And my feeds and speeds are proper for what I'm doing. I preset these, so if you download it, you should have that. Those all look good. And then I'm going to go to my geometry. And for geometry, I just select that bad boy. And you notice I don't model chamfers because they're super annoying when you're selecting surfaces and stuff. Nor do I model threads. I don't check the box to model threads because then selecting faces is super annoying. So I have that selected. And let's see, let's go to our heights tab. So this is where we're going to, oh, this isn't that critical. The taps is the critical part. So bottom height, we're going to go drill tip through bottom. So we're actually going to go deeper than what it's modeled, I believe. And then we're going to go break through depth. I'm going to go 0.1 because I want to make sure that's going pretty deep. I want to always drill deeper than my tap is going. 0.1. So it's actually going to drill further than my model, than I have it modeled. I'm going to verify. So whole bottom, offset 0, drill tip through, breakthrough depth 0.1. And you want to just make sure that blue is not going through here. You don't want to do model bottom or something like that. Looking good? Looking good. And then whole top for top height. Let's go here. I'm going to do just drilling rapid out. So that's not doing any peck drilling. You could just add some peck if you want. I'm going to say okay. But it drilled it fine. And let's look at mine over here. Yeah, I went pretty deep, and I'm just verifying I didn't do any peck drilling or full retract. Yeah, I did not. Usually, like with a hole like this, you could get away with 3 times the diameter before having to peck. So now we've made an entry hole for the tap, but I want to make a smooth transition, so I'm going to do a chamfer for the tap. I want to put a little chamfer on this edge before I send my tap in. So I'm going to do 2D chamfer. I have my 1/4 inch 45 chamfer actually, so that's good. It's already populated. 6,000 RPM. I'll leave 20 inches a minute. And for geometry, I'm going to just select that edge. Now, if you have modeled threads checked, it might give you some issues, or if you have a modeled chamfer, it might give you some issues. Let's go to heights. I just leave all these the same. Now passes. For my chamfer width, I'm going to go a little bigger than normal. I'm going to go 0.02 because I want a nice lead in for the tap to go in. Chamfer tip offset, not changing it. Chamfer clearance, don't care, fine. I'll just do smoothing. And we'll go over here to linking. And I'm going to leave that at 0. 90. Linear leading distance is 25. Interesting. This looks doesn't matter as much. We're just going to say okay. If you do a lead in, it might not fit in there, so that's probably why I have that at 0. We'll say okay. Let's try something. I don't like that. I'm going to go edit. I want to make a little, we'll try. I'm going to go lead in radius. Let's say 0.01. I don't want a linear lead in distance. We'll just 0 that out. I don't need a vertical lead in radius. We'll 0 that out. I don't know why I didn't do this. Let's try this. We'll do a horizontal lead in radius of 10 thou. I 0'd out my lead in distance. I 0'd out my radius. Let's say okay now. All right, so there I get a little bit of a roll on. All right, I like that better. And I'm going to say save. And then the next one up is the tap. So we will do drilling, drill, and I need to select my tool. And I'm going to go clay mini mill aluminum. This is my 1/4 20. This is my spiral flute Haas tap 1/4 20 UNC. I'm going to click on there, say select. And I have it set up for my parameters. And so the pitch is 50 thou. That's very important when you set it up. This is my surface feed, and I have cut beautiful taps. And this is where our depth, we're going to set our depth for how deep we actually want it to go. If you use a different tap, you might have to experiment on a piece of scrap first. So for this one, I want here, again, the modeled threads would jack me up, leaving all that. For heights, I want to change this. So bottom height, I want to go from my whole top. So I'll go whole top, and I want the very end of my tool to go down negative 395, negative 0.395. Yeah, it's not going to probably give you 395 of usable thread because there's a taper on it, but this works with all my parameters and for installing this handle on there. You might have to experiment with your own setup, but this is going to work lovely for me, and I'm not doing that. And we're going to go to cycle, and I go to tapping, and I just go to right tapping, and I'm going to click on here just to verify. This is all good. 395, whole top, whole top. That's good. Yep, so this should all give you the correct recipe. Double check your pitch when you set up your tool is 50 thou, and we'll say okay. And one more verifying thing that I do is I'll click on my drill, I'll hold control on my keyboard or command if you're a Mac, and I'll left mouse click on here. And then I just verify, because the skinnier one's the drill bit, I verify that my drill hole goes further than my tap. If they go to the same level, you see it will leave material like this wedge here. It will probably break your tap. So make sure your drill clears your tap. And this is all of Op 1. You know, if you haven't done this before, I recommend trying your settings on a piece of scrap, and that goes for any of these settings. If you're unfamiliar, get a piece of scrap and try it on that scrap before you wreck your part. I'm going to say okay. I hope you enjoyed this. I know this was long. There was a whole lot of tool paths. My soft jaws will be next for creating a cavity in them. Will be much shorter. And then the backside op 2 of this part will be much easier because we don't have to do all these holes or threading from the top. It will really just be duplicating these tool paths and applying it to the back side. But yeah, so look out for my next video. My next video will be doing the CAD and CAM for the cavity to machine the second side to this, because here I can't hold on this with a traditional vise because this goes tapered. So we're going to go over how to make your soft jaws in both the modeling and CAM environment before we can machine the backside. A lot of steps to this part. Hope this helps. I apologize for my throat. Have a good one, everybody, and I hope I get some more out within a week or two.